What I wanted to talk about a little bit was structure. I know that sounds very exciting, but I've been reading John McPhee, who's one of the great fiction writers of all times, and tells these stories of truckers, and he'll go into the trucking world, or he'll go into he writes a lot about nature. He's got a very famous thing about geology and tectonic plates and all these things. You would think, well, how interesting could it be? But as soon as you start to read him, it becomes fascinating. And one of the things you realize, and he writes about, because he kind of teaches writing at Princeton also, is how he thinks about structure. And that when he had a teacher that once taught him that before you do anything, before you write anything, you draw the structure. Whether that's, he was born, he was young, he was a young kid, he grew older, he got really old, he died. Like, maybe that's your structure, right? It's chronology. But sometimes, like when McPhee will do something, and you see this sometimes in a biography, you'll have like, okay, he was a child, but, or you'll start with like at the height of his fame, right? But then you'll go back to he was a child. Then you'll go back to he was at the height of his fame. And then you'll go back to he was a little younger. He first discovered whatever he discovered that he became great at. And then you kind of go back to recent. I saw a thing on Tupac. I can't even pronounce his last name, but Tupac and his history. Of course, he got shot in Las Vegas and died. And it was one of these biography things on Access TV or something. And they showed like him, like they started with him getting to Las Vegas. So it was kind of like, oh boy, this is exciting. He's going to go and what's going to happen? Then he's going to go and get in his car and get shot. And then they flashed back to, it all began when he was born back in Detroit, right? And so they go there. And then they go and they progress his day in Vegas a little bit more, right? They go to, and he went to the Tyson fight and blah, blah, blah. And he was going to go to a nightclub. Little did he know it was the last nightclub he would ever go to. But Tupac, when he was young, also started going to nightclubs, and that was where he became famous. So then they take you back to that. And this format is kind of a, it's chronology, but it's like starting, in Vegas, and then it's bump, 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 like that, right? Sometimes it's a circle. You come back in the beginning. But my point being, I think people get lost in, we've got this template, right? It's like you start out with a promise, and then you have proof, and then you have benefit, and then you have a nightmare story, and you have, AIDA or whatever it is, right? We've got these, Stephen Georgi has great templates, right? That you could use to structure. But people get lost in that, and they forget that there's other ways of structuring things. And there's other ways of structuring even a biography of someone. There's other ways of structuring sections. There's other ways of thinking of it that you're taking even, what's the emotional journey, right? That you're taking the reader on, right? From skepticism, maybe to interest, maybe to desire, maybe to action, right? Or maybe you want to get them angry at how they're being cheated by the government or whatever it is, right? So just maybe think about that. Maybe try just drawing a little bit of a sketch. Maybe think about how you structure that email, because even an email can have structure to it, right? And I hate thinking about things like that. I just want to sit down and write and get it over with. But when I do that, it makes it so different, right? And people who do that, like McPhee, write such incredible things.